Please kindly hit the subscription button, comment and like, as this motivates more stories from this channel. The bathroom floor of the Seoul Music Awards was cold against my knees as I held back a stranger's hair while he vomited into the toilet. This wasn't how I imagined my night going. 1 minute I was sneaking away from my camera post to find a quiet corner and eat my sad convenience store kimbap. The next I was stumbling upon Korea's biggest pop star having a complete breakdown in the staff bathroom. I should have walked away. I should have pretended I saw nothing, protected my job, minded my own business like my grandmother always told me to do. But Kang Jihoon looked up at me with those famous eyes, the ones that stared out from billboards across Seoul, that made millions of fans scream his name, and they were filled with such raw terror that my feet wouldn't move. "Please," he whispered, his voice nothing like the powerful vocals that had earned him 4 Dsangs. "Please don't tell anyone." That was the moment everything changed. The moment my ordinary life as a behind-the-scenes photographer collided with his extraordinary existence as Korea's most beloved idol. The moment I should have run but stayed instead, kneeling on that cold floor beside a stranger who would become everything. My name is Zara Okonkwo, and this is the story of how I fell in love with someone I was never supposed to even meet. Let me take you back to the beginning, the real beginning, 6 hours before I found myself in that bathroom. I had been in Seoul for exactly 11 months, working as a freelance photographer for various entertainment companies. It wasn't glamorous work. While the world saw the polished final images of idols looking perfect and ethereal, I saw the chaos behind the scenes, the stylists scrambling with last-minute alterations, the managers shouting into phones, the artists themselves looking exhausted and hollow-eyed before makeup transformed them into untouchable beings. My father, a Nigerian businessman who had moved our family to Atlanta when I was 3, thought I was wasting my degree. "You went to Yale for photography," he would say during our monthly video calls, disappointment heavy in his voice. "Zara, you could be doing anything. Why are you chasing celebrities in a country where you don't even speak the language?" But my mother understood. She always had. Before she passed away 3 years ago, she had held my hands and told me to follow the thread of curiosity wherever it led. "The universe doesn't give us passions by accident, Enkem," she'd said. "Chase what makes you feel alive." K-pop had been my escape during those dark months after her death. The colors, the music, the intricate choreography, it pulled me out of my grief when nothing else could. When I saw a job posting for a photographer willing to relocate to Seoul, I applied on a whim. 2 months later, I was on a plane with 2 suitcases and a heart full of terrified hope. Now 11 months in, I had carved out a small life for myself. A tiny apartment in Mapogu, a handful of friends, other foreigners mostly, plus a few Korean co-workers who had taken me under their wing. Enough Korean language skills to navigate daily life, if not to have deep conversations, and a growing portfolio that was finally starting to open doors. The Seoul Music Awards gig was my biggest assignment yet. A senior photographer had gotten sick at the last minute, and my agency had thrown me in as a replacement. I was supposed to stay in the background, capturing candid moments of artists preparing backstage. Nothing major, nothing that would put me in anyone's important line of sight. I arrived at the venue at 2 p.m., 5 hours before the show started. The backstage area was already chaos, racks of clothing being wheeled through narrow corridors, makeup artists setting up stations, managers conducting urgent phone calls in rapid Korean I couldn't follow. My press badge got me access to most areas, but I stayed peripheral, capturing shots of the organized madness without getting in anyone's way. I photographed a girl group rehearsing their choreography in a cramped hallway, a solo artist meditating in a corner, eyes closed, lips moving silently, a rookie boy group huddled together, looking terrified and excited in equal measure. By 6 p.m. I was exhausted and starving. I hadn't eaten since breakfast, too nervous about the assignment to think about food. When I finally found a quiet corner near the emergency exit, a small alcove hidden behind some equipment cases, I sank down onto the floor with my convenience store kimbap and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for hours. That's when I heard it, a sound that made my blood run cold. Someone was crying, not quiet, dignified tears, the kind of raw, gasping sobs that seemed torn from somewhere deep and wounded. I should have stayed where I was, should have finished my food and pretended I heard nothing, but something about the sound, the desperation in it, made me move. The staff bathroom was just around the corner, The door was slightly ajar, and the sobbing was coming from inside. I pushed it open slowly, already composing apologies in my broken Korean. What I saw stopped me cold. Kang Jihoon was on his knees in front of the toilet, his perfect stage makeup smeared, his designer suit jacket discarded on the floor. His whole body was shaking as he retched, and between the heaving, he was crying with an abandon that seemed impossible for someone so controlled, so polished, so perfect. For a moment I just stood there, the idol on the floor and the photographer in the doorway, frozen in a tableau that shouldn't exist. Then he looked up, and everything I thought I knew about celebrities, about the untouchable nature of fame, about the distance between their world and mine, it all shattered. "Please," he whispered, "please don't tell anyone." I didn't think, I just moved. I grabbed paper towels from the dispenser and knelt beside him, dabbing at his face with a gentleness that surprised me. Up close, he looked younger than his 27 years. Smaller, too, the aura of stardom that made him seem larger than life on stage had completely evaporated, leaving behind someone who looked utterly lost. "It's okay," I said softly, not even sure if he understood English. "It's okay, I won't tell anyone." He stared at me like I was speaking another language, which I supposed I was, but something in my tone must have translated because his shoulders dropped slightly, some of the panic leaving his eyes. "You're not Korean," he said, his English accented but clear. "No, American, Nigerian American." I continued cleaning his face, wiping away tears and smeared eyeliner. "What happened? Are you sick?" He laughed bitterly. "Sick, yes, sick of everything." Before I could respond, he turned and vomited again. I held his hair back, it was dyed a deep auburn, softer than it looked on screen, and waited until the heaving stopped. "Panic attack," he finally said, sitting back against the bathroom wall. "I get them sometimes, before big events. My manager has medication, but he broke off, shaking his head. "I couldn't take it tonight. I have to sing live and the medication makes me feel disconnected from my voice." I settled beside him on the floor, maintaining a careful distance. "How long has this been happening?" "Years," he closed his eyes. "Since I debuted, but it's getting worse. The bigger the stage, the worse the fear." He opened his eyes and looked at me with an expression that was almost accusatory. "Why are you still here? Do you know who I am?" Kang Jihoon, Nova's main vocalist, 4-time Dsang winner, 23 million Instagram followers. I paused. "I work in this industry. I'd have to be living under a rock not to know who you are." "Then you know what this would be worth, photos of me like this. A story about the great Kang Jihoon falling apart in a bathroom." His voice turned hard. "You could sell it for enough money to change your life." The accusation strung, but I understood where it came from. His world was one of constant betrayal, of people looking for angles and opportunities. Trust was probably a foreign concept. "I could," I admitted, "but I won't." "Why?" I considered the question seriously. Why was I sitting on a bathroom floor with a stranger, even if that stranger was one of the most famous people in Asia? Why hadn't I taken my photos and walked away? "Because you're a person," I finally said, "and right now you needed help. That's more important than any story or any money." He studied me for a long moment. In the harsh fluorescent light, I could see things the cameras never caught: the dark circles under his eyes that makeup couldn't fully conceal, the tension lines around his mouth, the slight tremor in his hands. "What's your name?" he asked. Zara Okonkwo." Zara, he tested the name like he was tasting something unfamiliar. "That's beautiful." "It means blooming flower in Arabic. My mother chose it." I didn't know why I added that detail, it just slipped out. "Your mother has good taste." The word came out before I could stop it. "She passed away 3 years ago." Something shifted in his expression. A recognition of shared pain, maybe, or just the acknowledgement that grief was a language everyone understood. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, I could hear the muffled sounds of the event preparations continuing, announcements over the PA system, the rumble of equipment being moved. His world was waiting for him. Mine was too. "You have to go back out there," I said gently. "The show starts soon." "I know," he didn't move. "Every time I think about stepping on that stage, I feel like I'm going to die. My heart pounds so hard I can't breathe. My legs shake so badly I can barely stand. And I have to smile through all of it. I have to pretend to be grateful and happy and perfect when inside I'm falling apart. Why do you do it then? The question seemed to catch him off guard. Because it's my job, because millions of people are counting on me, because I've sacrificed everything for this career, my childhood, my relationships, my health. If I stop now, what was it all for? That's not a reason to continue, that's a reason to feel trapped. He looked at me sharply. You don't understand, you couldn't understand. You're right, I admitted. I don't know what it's like to be you. I don't know the pressures you face or the expectations you carry. But I know what it's like to feel trapped by expectations. I know what it's like to sacrifice your well-being for something you're not even sure you want anymore. And what did you do? I ran away, I smiled sadly. I left everything and everyone I knew and moved to the other side of the world because I couldn't breathe in my old life anymore. Did it help? Some days, other days, I'm still just as lost, but at least I'm lost on my own terms. He was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he pushed himself to his feet. He was taller than I expected, at least 6 feet, though he moved with the careful fragility of someone who wasn't sure his legs would hold him. I have to go, he said. They'll be looking for me. I stood too, brushing off my pants. I know. Zara, he turned to face me, and something in his expression made my heart skip. What you did tonight, staying with me, not judging me, no one has ever done that, not since I became this. He gestured vaguely at himself, at the persona he wore like armor. Anyone would have done the same. No, his voice was firm. They wouldn't have. I've been in this industry for 12 years. I know exactly what people would have done. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I blinked. What? Your phone number. I want to be able to contact you. He must have seen the skepticism on my face because he added, not for anything strange, just, I don't know, you're easy to talk to, and I don't have anyone I can talk to. Every rational part of my brain was screaming at me to refuse. This was dangerous territory, the kind of connection that could only end badly. He was an idol, I was nobody. The power imbalance alone should have made me run. But I thought about what he'd said, about having no one to talk to, about falling apart alone in bathrooms while the world waited for him to be perfect. I took his phone and typed in my number. Thank you, he said softly. Then, with visible effort, he straightened his spine and transformed before my eyes. The vulnerability vanished. The shaking stopped. The mask of the perfect idol slid back into place so seamlessly it was almost terrifying. Wait, I said, stopping him before he reached the door. Your makeup, you need to fix it before you go out there. He looked at his reflection in the bathroom mirror and winced. Right, I look like a disaster. Sit down, I can help. I had him sit on the closed toilet lid while I worked with the supplies from my emergency kit. Every photographer learns to carry basic touch-up materials. Within 5 minutes, his makeup was repaired well enough to pass casual inspection, though he'd need his actual team for a professional fix. You're good at this, he observed. I've had practice. Behind the scenes, there are always last-minute emergencies. When I finished, he stood and checked himself in the mirror. Satisfied, he turned back to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Tonight, after the show ends, I'm hosting an after-party at a private venue. Very small, very exclusive. Would you come? I don't think that's a good idea. Probably not, he agreed, but I'm asking anyway. Against every instinct, against every warning bell in my head, I heard myself say, I'll think about it. He smiled then, not the polished, practice smile I'd seen in countless photos, but something real and slightly crooked. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. I'll take it. He opened the bathroom door, pausing on the threshold. Thank you, Zara, for everything. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in the bathroom with my racing heart and the terrifying knowledge that I had just made a very, very dangerous decision. The Seoul Music Awards went off without a hitch. I watched from my position in the press area as Nova took the stage, Kang Jihoon at the center, looking like the confident superstar the world believed him to be. His voice soared through the venue, powerful and controlled, giving no hint of the man who had been sobbing on a bathroom floor just hours before. When they won the Daesang for Album of the Year, their 5th as a group, he gave a gracious speech thanking fans and family and everyone who had supported their journey. The camera loved him. The audience loved him. He was, as always, perfect. But twice during the night, I caught him scanning the crowd with a specific intensity, and twice his eyes found mine. The second time he smiled, that same crooked, real smile from the bathroom. I was in trouble. After the show ended and I had submitted my photos to the agency, I found myself standing outside the venue with a decision to make. The address he had texted me was burning a hole in my phone. Every logical part of me knew I should go home, take a hot shower, forget this night ever happened. But logic had never been my strong suit. The private venue turned out to be a rooftop bar in Gangnam, the kind of place that didn't appear in any guidebook and required a whispered password to enter. Inside, it was all dim lighting and leather couches, maybe 30 people total, a mix of industry insiders, celebrities I vaguely recognized, and beautiful people whose jobs seemed to be simply existing in these spaces. I felt immediately out of place. My all-black photographer's outfit was practical but hardly glamorous. My locks were pulled back in a simple bun, and my makeup was minimal at best. Next to the sculpted perfection surrounding me, I might as well have been invisible. I was about to turn and leave when a hand touched my elbow. "You came." Jihoon had changed out of his stage outfit into something simpler, a white button-down with sleeves rolled up, dark slacks, his auburn hair slightly disheveled now. He looked more like the man from the bathroom than the superstar from the stage. "I shouldn't have," I said honestly. "This isn't my world." "It isn't mine either, not really." He guided me toward a quiet corner away from the main crowd. "These people," he gestured at the room, "they see what I want them to see. The image, the brand, none of them know me." "And you think I do? We met 3 hours ago." "You know something about me that nobody else in this room knows. That means more than years of surface-level relationships." A server appeared with champagne. Jihoon took 2 glasses and handed one to me. I accepted it but didn't drink. "Why did you invite me here?" I asked. "Really?" He considered the question, swirling his champagne thoughtfully. "Because when you looked at me in that bathroom, you didn't see Kang Jihoon the idol. You saw a person having a hard time. You helped me without expecting anything in return." He paused. "Do you have any idea how rare that is in my life? I'm not a saint, I have flaws like everyone else." "I don't want a saint, I want someone real." He moved slightly closer, lowering his voice. "Everyone in my life wants something from me. My company wants profit. My fans want perfection. My family wants me to be the successful son who justifies all their sacrifices. I'm so tired of performing for everyone." "And you think I'm different?" "I don't know yet, but you're the first person in years who's made me want to find out." The party continued around us, but it felt like we were in our own bubble. We talked for hours, about music, about art, about the specific loneliness of being far from home. He told me about growing up in Busan, about training since he was 14, about the moment he realized fame was a cage he had built for himself. I told him about my mother, about grief, about running to Seoul to escape the weight of expectations. At some point, without either of us noticing, the crowd had thinned to almost nothing. The city lights glittered beyond the rooftop's glass barriers, Seoul spread out before us like a galaxy of earthbound stars. "What happens now?" I asked, when the silence between us had stretched long enough to become significant. "I don't know," he admitted. "My life doesn't really allow for normal things. Dating, relationships, everything becomes complicated when you're constantly in the public eye." "Then why are you telling me all this? Why start something that can only end badly?" He turned to face me fully, and in the low light his eyes were impossibly dark and serious. "Because I've spent my entire adult life making the safe choice, the strategic choice. I've dated people my company approved, said things my publicist scripted, lived according to someone else's plan for my life." He reached out and touched my face just barely, his fingertips brushing my cheek. "Just once I want to do something because I want to, not because it's smart, not because it makes sense. Just because. This is crazy." "I knows. I don't even know you." "I knows. Your fans would destroy me if they found out." "I know," he didn't drop his hand. "Tell me to walk away and I will. Tell me this is a mistake and I'll respect that, but don't tell me you don't feel it too." I should have told him to walk away. I should have been the rational one, the adult in the room. But when I looked at him, this beautiful, broken man who had been performing for the world for so long he'd forgotten who he really was, I saw myself. I saw the loneliness, the hunger for connection, the desperate need to be seen. "I feel it," I whispered. He kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was giving me a chance to pull away. When I didn't, he deepened it, one hand sliding into my hair, the other gripping my waist. He tasted like champagne and something sweeter beneath, and when we finally broke apart, both of us breathing harder than we should have been, his forehead pressed against mine. "This is definitely crazy," he murmured. "I know. We are going to regret this. Probably." He kissed me again, and I stopped thinking about regret. The first few weeks were a fever dream. We met in secret, late nights at his apartment, early mornings in hotel rooms booked under false names, stolen hours in the private rooms of restaurants where the staff were paid handsomely for their discretion. Every meeting was a risk. Every touch felt like defiance. He was different away from the cameras, softer, funnier. He had a dry wit that surprised me and a vulnerability that broke my heart. He sang to me sometimes, not the polished performances he gave on stage, but raw, unplugged versions of songs he loved, old R&B jazz standards. Once, a Nigerian folk song he'd learned from YouTube just to impress me. "How long did it take you to learn that?" I asked, laughing as he stumbled over the Igbo pronunciation. 3 days, my pronunciation is terrible, isn't it? Absolutely terrible, but the effort is, I searched for the right word, it means everything. In those private moments, I saw the person he kept hidden from the world. The person who cried at animal rescue videos and couldn't cook anything more complicated than instant ramen. Who had insomnia so severe he sometimes went days without proper sleep. Who still had panic attacks but was learning to manage them, partly because I had convinced him to see a therapist his company didn't control. But the outside world was always waiting. His company announced a comeback, a new album, a world tour, 6 months of intense preparation that would consume his every waking moment. Meanwhile, I continued my work, taking assignments that kept me in the periphery of his world but never close enough to touch. We saw each other less, our messages became shorter, the calls that used to last for hours dwindled to quick check-ins before exhaustion claimed him. "I miss you," he said one night, his voice rough with fatigue over the phone. "I'm sorry I've been so absent." "You don't have to apologize. I knew what your life was like when I got into this." "That doesn't make it fair." "No, but it's reality." He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy. "Sometimes I fantasize about quitting, just walking away from all of it. We could go somewhere nobody knows my face, start over." "You'd hate that," I said gently. "Performing is part of who you are, you'd miss it." "I'd have you." "I'm not worth your dreams, Jihoon." "You're worth more than you know." We hung up with promises to see each other soon, but soon kept getting pushed back. Days became weeks, weeks became a month. And then the scandal broke. I was at a coffee shop near my apartment when my phone started exploding with notifications. At first I thought it was work-related, maybe some award show news or industry drama, but when I opened Twitter, my blood ran cold. Kang Jihoon's secret girlfriend revealed, the headlines screamed, "Nova member spotted with foreign woman." The photos were grainy but unmistakable. Us leaving a hotel together. His hand on my waist, my face turned toward him, caught mid-laugh. They had been taken weeks ago, but someone had been holding onto them, waiting for the right moment to release them. My phone rang. "Jihoon. Are you safe?" His voice was tight with controlled panic. "Where are you?" "I'm at a coffee shop near home, I just saw." "Go home, lock the door, don't answer for anyone you don't know." He took a shaky breath. "I'm sending someone to bring you to me, 20 minutes. "Jihoon. This is my fault, I should have been more careful, I should have protected you better." I could hear chaos in the background, voices shouting, phones ringing. "Just please, stay safe until I can get to you." The car that arrived was black with tinted windows, driven by a man who didn't speak, but showed me credentials proving he was from Jihoon's private security. The ride to his apartment complex felt like traveling through enemy territory. My phone was still blowing up, messages from coworkers, from my agency, from numbers I didn't recognize. One caught my eye, "My father. I saw the news, call me immediately." I didn't call. Jihoon's apartment was chaos. His manager was there, along with two people I didn't recognize who were apparently crisis PR specialists. Everyone was talking at once: damage control strategies, statement drafts, something about trending hashtags and public opinion metrics. When I walked in, everything stopped. Jihoon crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I'm sorry," he whispered into my hair. "I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault." "It is, all of this. I dragged you into my world without thinking about the consequences. And now—" "Mr. Kang," his manager's voice was cold, "we need to discuss the situation with your friend present." We sat on his couch, surrounded by people who looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. The PR specialists laid out the options with clinical efficiency. Option 1, full denial. We claim the photos are fabricated, hire experts to dispute their authenticity. Risky but possible. Option 2, partial acknowledgement. Confirm that you know this woman but characterize the relationship as platonic. A friend of a friend, nothing more. Option 3, controlled confession. Get ahead of the narrative by releasing a statement confirming the relationship on your terms, with carefully managed details. And option 4, Jihoon asked quietly. The PR woman hesitated. Option 4 is ending the relationship immediately and publicly, framing it as a brief lapse in judgment that's already been corrected. I felt Jihoon's hand tighten on mine. "That's not happening." "Sir, with all due respect, the public response has been intense. Some fans are supportive, but a significant portion is reacting negatively. The fact that she's foreign and specifically—" She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. "Specifically what?" I asked, though I already knew. "Specifically black," the manager finished bluntly. "There's been racial harassment, it's severe." I had known this was a possibility, had tried to prepare myself for it, but knowing something intellectually and facing it in reality were very different things. "What are they saying?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "It doesn't matter," Jihoon started. "It matters to me." The PR woman pulled up her tablet with obvious reluctance. The comments she showed me were a parade of hatred, slurs I'd heard before and some I hadn't, crude caricatures, detailed fantasies about violence against me. Some were from Korean accounts, others from international fans who apparently believed their idol belonged to them and them alone. I read them all with a face I kept carefully blank. I had learned this skill growing up, the ability to absorb racism without flinching, to swallow the hurt and project calm. It was armor I hated wearing but didn't know how to remove. "These are just the loudest voices," the PR woman said, almost apologetically. "There's also significant support." "It's fine," I set down the tablet. "I expected this." Jihoon looked at me with an expression of profound pain. "You shouldn't have to expect this. You shouldn't have to endure any of this." "But I do, because I chose you, because this is the reality of who you are and who I am and what the world thinks of people like us being together." I turned to face the assembled team. "What does option 3 look like?" "Specifically—" For the next 2 hours we crafted a narrative, a joint statement acknowledging our relationship, emphasizing its seriousness, requesting privacy. His company fought every word. They wanted vagueness, qualifiers, escape routes. Jihoon fought back harder. "She's not a special friend or a close acquaintance," he said at one point, his voice rising. "She's my girlfriend. That's what the statement will say." The word girlfriend implies a level of commitment that could limit your future, his manager started. "I don't care about limiting my future. I care about being honest." In the end, the statement was released at midnight. Simple and direct. Kang Jihoon and Zara are in a relationship. They ask for privacy during this time. The internet exploded. I stayed at his apartment that night, unable to face going home. We lay in his bed in the dark, not touching, both too overwhelmed for comfort. "I understand if you want to end this," he said quietly. "What you saw today, those comments, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. I wouldn't blame you for wanting to protect yourself." "Is that what you want, to end it?" "No," the word was immediate, fierce. "I want to fight for this, for us, but not at the cost of your well-being, not if this is going to destroy you." I rolled over to face him, though I could barely see his features in the darkness. "When I was 12, a boy at school called me something so ugly I can't even repeat it. I came home crying and my mother held me for an hour. Then she said something I've never forgotten. What? She said, Engkem, the world will try to make you small. It will try to convince you that you don't belong, that you're not enough, that you should shrink yourself to fit their expectations. Don't let it. Take up space, be loud, love freely. The ones who can't handle your fullness were never meant to be in your life anyway. I reached out and found his hand in the darkness my entire life, and I refused to let it steal something good from me. I squeezed his hand. You're something good. He was crying. I could hear it in his breath, feel it in the slight tremor of his fingers. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Let me be the judge of that. We fell asleep holding hands like children afraid of the dark, and in the morning the world was still there, still hostile, still watching. But we were still together. The months that followed were a trial by fire. Jihoon's company wanted to minimize our public appearances together, but he refused. He held my hand at award shows. He mentioned me in interviews. He posted a photo of us on his personal Instagram, just our intertwined fingers, his paler skin against my darker tone, with a simple caption in Korean, Ko hum, in together. His fans fractured along predictable lines. Some left loudly, declaring him ruined, betrayed, lost to them forever. Others stayed quiet or offered tentative support. And a surprising number embraced us, creating fan art, writing messages of encouragement, actively fighting the racists in comment sections. But the ugliness never fully disappeared. It lurked in every public appearance, every photograph, every online mention. I learned to avoid certain corners of the internet entirely. I changed my phone number 3 times after it got leaked. Once, someone threw a drink at me outside a broadcast station. The security caught them before they could do anything worse, but Jihoon didn't let me leave the apartment alone for a week afterward. This isn't sustainable, I told him one night, after a particularly bad day that had included death threats and a disturbing package sent to my apartment. We can't live like this forever. It won't be forever. Things are already getting better. The percentage of negative comments has dropped. I don't want to measure my relationship in percentages of hatred. I was tired, so tired. I love you, Jihoon, but I'm not sure love is enough to survive this. The words hung between us like a blade. What are you saying? His voice was barely a whisper. I'm saying I need to think about what I can actually handle, about what kind of life I want. I pressed my hands to my face. I didn't come to Korea to become a target. I came here to find myself, and somewhere along the way I lost myself again, this time in you. So this is my fault. No, this is just reality, the reality we've been trying to ignore. I looked at him and my heart cracked at the pain in his eyes. Maybe your company was right. Maybe we moved too fast, made things too public too quickly. Maybe we should have. Don't, he crossed the room and took my hands, gripping them tightly. Don't reduce what we have to strategy and timing. I refuse to treat our relationship like a PR problem. Then what do we do? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was steady but his eyes were wild. Come with me. What? The world tour starts next month. 12 cities over 4 months. Come with me, not as my secret or my hidden girlfriend, as my partner. Let the world see us together. Let them get used to us until we're not interesting anymore. That's insane. Probably, he smiled slightly, but when has anything about us been sane? I wanted to say no. Every logical part of me screamed that this was foolish, reckless, a recipe for more pain. But logic had stopped applying to my life the moment I walked into that bathroom at the Seoul Music Awards. Your company will never allow it, I said weakly. My company answers to me. I'm their biggest artist. If I threaten to walk, they'll agree to anything. You would do that, risk your career for. For you, he lifted our joined hands and kissed my knuckles, in a heartbeat. The tour was everything and nothing like I expected. The logistics were nightmarish, constant travel, never-ending security concerns, the perpetual exhaustion of living out of hotels. But there was also magic in it. Watching Jihoon perform night after night, seeing how he commanded stages in Los Angeles and Paris and Tokyo, holding his hand as we walked through crowds that were slowly starting to accept us. By month 2, something had shifted. The negative coverage was fading, replaced by curiosity, then tentative interest. A major American magazine did a profile on us. Inside K-pop's most controversial romance, it was actually surprisingly fair, focusing on our love story rather than the scandal. My father called after the article came out. I read the piece, he said, his voice carefully neutral. You seem happy. I am happy. This man, this idol, he treats you well. He treats me like I'm the most important person in his world. My father was quiet for a long moment. Your mother would have liked that. She always said you needed someone who would match your fire. It was as close to approval as he'd ever given. I took it. But the tour's final stop was Seoul, coming home to the place where it all started, where the worst of the backlash had originated. Jihoon was nervous in a way I hadn't seen in months, packing the hotel room the night before the concert. What if they boo you? He asked. What if they hold signs or chant things or? Then we deal with it. I caught his hands, stilling his movement. We've dealt with everything else. This is different. This is my home. If my own fans can't accept us here, then we'll find new fans or we'll walk away together. I kissed him softly. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together. The Seoul concert was sold out. 60,000 people in an outdoor stadium, all of them watching, all of them judging. I stayed backstage during most of the show, watching on monitors, my heart in my throat. Then came the moment that changed everything. Near the end of the concert, Jihoon stopped between songs. The crowd fell silent, confused. He walked to the edge of the stage and stood there, looking out at the sea of lightsticks, and began to speak. I want to tell you a story, he said in Korean. A story about the worst and best night of my life. I watched on the monitor, my pulse racing. Nearly a year ago at the Seoul Music Awards, I had a breakdown. A severe panic attack that left me sobbing on the floor of a bathroom, unable to breathe, unable to function. I had been hiding my mental health struggles for years, smiling through the pain, pretending to be perfect because that's what you expected. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. That night a stranger found me. She could have walked away. She could have taken photos and sold them. She could have used my weakness against me. He paused. Instead, she stayed. She helped me clean up, calmed me down, reminded me that I was human before I was an idol. Tears were streaming down my face now. That stranger is now the woman I love, Zara Okonkwo. Some of you have accepted her, many of you haven't. Some of you have said cruel things about her that keep me awake at night. His voice hardened. I want you to know something. She has faced more hatred in the past year than anyone should face in a lifetime, and she has never once asked me to choose between her and my career, never once complained about the abuse she endures, never once made me feel guilty for the situation I put her in. He looked directly at the camera filming for the big screens, which meant he was looking directly at me. Zara, I know you're watching. I want you to come out here. My heart stopped. A staff member appeared at my elbow. Ms. Okonkwo, Mr. Kang is requesting you on stage. I was moving before I could think, walking through the backstage maze toward the stairs that led to the stage. The noise of the crowd grew louder, a wall of sound that was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Then I was on stage, in front of 60,000 people, and Jihoon was walking toward me with tears in his eyes. I have been performing for half my life, he said, loud enough for the microphone to pick up. I have sung countless love songs about feelings I was told to pretend to have, but this, what I feel for you, is the first thing that's ever been truly mine. He dropped to one knee. The crowd gasped. I couldn't breathe. Zara Okonkwo, I don't have the right words, I don't have the perfect speech, I just have this. He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, a solitaire on a gold band. I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you were right to stay with me in that bathroom. Will you marry me? 60,000 people held their breath. My entire life had led to this moment. Every heartbreak, every risk, every terrifying leap into the unknown. My mother's voice echoing in my mind, chase what makes you feel alive. Yes, I said. The stadium erupted. Jihoon slid the ring onto my finger, stood and kissed me in front of the world. Fireworks exploded overhead, apparently planned, though I hadn't known. The crowd was screaming, crying, losing their minds. Later, I would learn that the proposal had been broadcast live to millions, that it trended worldwide within minutes, that the public response was overwhelmingly positive, the cynics drowned out by an outpouring of support that surprised everyone, most of all us. But in that moment none of it mattered. There was only Jihoon, his arms around me, his heart beating against mine. Was this insane? He murmured against my lips. Completely. Do you regret it? I pulled back to look at him, this beautiful, complicated, courageous man who had turned my life upside down from the moment I walked into that bathroom. Not for a single second. We got married 6 months later. The ceremony was small by celebrity standards, only 200 guests in a garden venue outside Seoul. My father walked me down the aisle, his eyes suspiciously bright. My aunties from Nigeria flew in, immediately adopting Jihoon as their own and overwhelming him with affection he didn't know how to handle. His family was there too, his mother openly weeping, his father shaking my hand for the first time and gruffly welcoming me. The internet went crazy, of course. Our wedding photos were analysed, criticised, celebrated, and memed into oblivion. But the vitriol had faded to background noise by then, still present but no longer loud enough to drown out everything else. I kept working as a photographer. Jihoon kept performing. We learned how to balance his demanding schedule with the quiet moments we carved out for ourselves. It wasn't perfect. Some days were harder than others, but we had each other and that was enough. 3 years after that night at the Seoul Music Awards, I stood in the bathroom of our apartment, staring at a positive pregnancy test. Jihoon was on tour in Japan. I could have called him, should have called him. Instead, I waited until he came home, meeting him at the door with the test hidden behind my back. "What's going on?" he asked, reading my expression. "You look like you're about to explode." "I might be," I showed him the test. He stared at it, stared at me, stared at the test again. Then he burst into tears. "We're going to be parents," he sobbed, pulling me into his arms. "We're going to have a baby, our baby." "You're happy?" "Happy," he laughed through his tears. "I'm terrified, I'm overwhelmed. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life." Our daughter was born on a spring morning, all 10 perfect fingers and 10 perfect toes. We named her Grace, after the grace that had brought us together, the grace that had carried us through every hardship. She had Jihoon's eyes and my nose, and a personality that was entirely her own. She loved music and hated vegetables, and had strong opinions about everything from the age of 2. The world watched her grow up in fragments, the photos we chose to share, the moments we allowed to be public. We protected her fiercely, drawing boundaries that his company eventually learned to respect. She was not a product. She was not content. She was our daughter, and she deserved the childhood neither of us had fully gotten. As I write this, Grace is 5 years old. She's in the next room with her father, both of them laughing at something I can't hear. In an hour, we're leaving for a family vacation, the first we've taken in months, to a private beach in Thailand where no one will recognize us. I still think sometimes about that girl who landed in Seoul with 2 suitcases and a broken heart, who made impulsive decisions and ran from her problems and had no idea what she was doing. She was a mess. She was lost. She was exactly where she needed to be. Because here's what I've learned. Life doesn't follow a script. The moments that change everything rarely come with warning. You can plan and prepare and try to control every variable and still end up in a bathroom holding a stranger's hair while he falls apart. The question isn't whether chaos will find you, it's what you do when it does, whether you walk away or stay, whether you choose fear or choose love. I chose love. Every time, despite every reason not to, I chose love. And love chose me back. Jihoon appears in the doorway now, Grace balanced on his hip. His hair is longer than it was when we met, threaded with the first hints of silver. Laugh lines frame his eyes. He looks nothing like the polished idol from the awards show, and everything like the man I fell in love with. "Ready?" he asks. I look at my family, this impossible, beautiful family that started with a breakdown in a bathroom and a stranger who didn't look away. "Ready," I say. And we walk into our future together. Please kindly hit the subscription button, comment and like and turn on the notification, as this motivates more romance stories from this channel.